So, should we bring in the closer?
I think it'd be a good time for that.
All right.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 56 of the Free Baseball Podcast. Just 2 days late. Kind of a weird situation in my own personal life going on for Wednesday, but we're here on Friday with episode number 56 with a whole week of baseball that has been worth talking about. And I think we ought to just go ahead and get right into it. And before we're going to get to the hot weeks and everything, it's important to recognize history of the game. Jackie Robinson Day is tomorrow. And it's just so wonderful for him to continually be celebrated in the game of baseball, and a game and a country that he's honestly meant so much to. He's just like one of the biggest figures in sports history, let alone baseball history. Jake sneezing his brains out over there. But Jackie Robinson Day is tomorrow, and it's important that we talk about that. So happy early Jackie Robinson Day to you, Jake. And let's go ahead and get into the hot weeks. And we're going to start with one that I literally sent a video to our group chat earlier today. And it's Brandon Lowe. So Brandon Lowe for the Rays, who they talk about hot weeks. They've been just hot to start the season. Currently undefeated, might change by the end of the night. They're currently losing to the Blue Jays, but Brandon Lowe in the last week, or since the 4th, has 32 plate appearances. He's hitting .391, 500 on base, OPS of 1.087, which is really good. He scored 11 runs, of course, because that offense is a juggernaut. 5 dingers, which is crazy. 12 RBIs, and he's been worth 0.8 FWAR just over a week. Lowe he feels like a really underrated hitter all of the time, and I feel like he's kind of getting his flowers finally. Everyone's like, oh yeah, Brandon Lowe is that guy.
Definitely a guy that's struggled with injuries, and I think there was a little bit of doubt that came with his 2021 campaign, because that was literally the only year he's done it. He's a guy that has weird plate discipline numbers, one of those guys that seems to be too patient in that he walks a lot but also strikes out a lot. But yeah, it's he's definitely a guy that's got a lot of power. Definitely go check out that Xavier Scruggs video to learn about how he gets to that power. But yeah, 5 home runs in a week is crazy, because the league leaders right now are at 6. So to do that since April 4th is pretty impressive, but probably not. I mean, definitely not going to keep up this pace for the whole year. I mean, that's clear, but he's a guy that can hit 30 plus home runs and have a low batting average, but he should be good, especially in the Rays lineup that is, like you said, been very impressive thus far. But yeah, I think definitely an underrated guy whose star sort of fell, because 2021, that guy hit 39 home runs. That is 1 away from 40. I always think it's weird when we're just like, oh yeah, he never had a 40 home run season. It's just yeah, he was probably 5 feet away on 1 hit from being a 40 home run hitter. And that would be huge. That year he was worth 4.9 FWAR, so basically 5 FWAR, and that was basically the 1 year he's done that. He struggled with injuries all of last year, so it's cool to see him back, because I think he can be the premier second baseman, especially with how weak the position is right now, with Altuve injured and not much else outside of that. I don't know, in fantasy, Albies was the second best guy, so Lowe could definitely move up the second base power rankings pretty quickly, especially if he continues to hit as he has during the beginning of the season.
Oh yeah, his 0.8 FWAR is just 0.1 FWAR off of his entire last campaign, which was of course riddled with injury. But yeah, I mean, he's already worth almost 1 WAR off, or 1 FWAR off of a single week. Is pretty tough to beat. So well, it's a little over a week. 10 days, but still pretty tough to beat there. And then another one, this time, some hope glimmering out of Cincinnati and their awful situation with their ownership. And it's Nick Lodolo. And I think everyone was high on him to start the season, but it's been a really good week for him. And he had 2 starts that were both really good against Philly in Cincinnati, and then at Philly. And we'll start with the one at Philly, because that was the first one. He went 7 innings. He had 3 hits, no earned, 2 walks, 12 Ks. He had 15 whiffs that game, which was good for 33% call strikes plus whiffs percentage, which is very, very good. He's turning into what could be one of the premier strikeout guys. That's a starter from the left-handed side. And in Cincinnati, kind of forming a 2-headed dragon with Hunter Green.
Yeah, that made him the league strikeout leader after that start, and that one was really cool. He was just getting all the whiffs, and the Phillies, they're the reigning NL champs, so it's definitely not an easy task. They're definitely depleted with Harper and Hoskins out and Hall injured as well. So not the most elite Phillies lineup we've seen, but it is still an impressive feat for a young pitcher like that to take down a team that has a lot of veterans there. So yeah, Lodolo's definitely looks like he's breaking out with that fastball curveball combination.
And then he followed that up with a game at home versus Philly. And that one went 5 innings pitched. He gave up 8 hits this time, 2 earned, 2 walks again, halved his strikeouts this time, 6 strikeouts. But interestingly enough, 15 whiffs again, this time good for 34% called strikes plus whiffs percentage.
Yeah, double-digit whiffs is really good. So if you're getting 15, that's like pretty solid. So that bodes well for his future that he's getting so many whiffs and that his CSW is pretty safely over 30%. Right now, he still leads the major leagues in strikeouts. He's tied with 2 pitchers. Can you name them?
For strikeouts,
it's exactly who you'd think it is.
Cole.
No.
Really? DeGrom.
Yes.
And Sandy.
No.
Who's number 2? McClanahan.
No.
I have no clue.
Very similar to DeGrom.
Very similar to DeGrom.
He has a mustache.
Strider.
Yes. So yeah, Lodolo. Yeah, Lodolo is tied with Spencer Strider and Jacob DeGrom for the most strikeouts in the majors right now at 27. If that doesn't say enough, then I don't know. You got to touch up on your baseball stats. But yeah, he's clearly looking like he's breaking out, and the biggest thing will be surviving Great American Small Park, because that is a tough place to pitch as a pitcher, especially as a young guy. And he doesn't have like the greatest defense or the greatest offense backing him up, so he won't get a lot of wins, and he may not get some outs or hits saved from him. But the way he's been pitching thus far, it seems like he's going to have a really good season.
30 whiffs from 2 games is pretty good. There's a couple starters around the league that haven't generated 15 whiffs yet, which is pretty wild in and of itself. But yeah, he's really showing that he's able to miss bats, and that's going to be huge for Cincinnati and their 58th rebuild. So hopefully he can continue this pace that he's at, because I don't know about you, but like that's always the most exciting, like one of the most exciting things about the new season for me is seeing like how rookies get on, and especially rookie pitchers, just because like that's really exciting. Like last year, Spencer Strider kind of felt like every time he had a start, like you had to kind of at least peer in on it for a little bit just to see what he was doing. And Lodolo kind of has that same vibe, which I really love. But that is it for our hot weeks. And let's go ahead and talk about players of the week, which got announced Monday. And on the AL side, it was the Toronto Blue Jays, Matt Chapman. And on the NL side, it was the man that is currently being held ransom by Bob Nutting, and it's Brian Reynolds of the Pittsburgh Pirates. So congratulations to our 2 players, or to the 2 players of the week. They're not our players of the week, but Matt Chapman and Brian Reynolds, both deserved, really.
Yeah, Reynolds really was going off for a moment. He was leading the majors in baseball, and it just seemed like it was pretty impossible to get him out. But yeah, you're right. Bob is nutting all over him, and surprised that he's able to push through that and continue to perform well. But maybe he's just trying to play himself into a larger extension, or maybe a trade out of there. Maybe the way he's playing will introduce him to other front offices and sort of make him more appealing. Davis just sent me a Mr. Krabs meme that just says Bob Nutting. Yeah, definitely a money grabber. But yeah, then we got Matt Chapman, who's I don't know, ever since he left Oakland, like he went from being like, oh, this is future MVP to everyone forgot about him.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. It felt like it for sure. Especially last year. It's just kind of like, where'd he go, really?
Yeah. And he's been exactly 4.1 F4 across each of the past 2 seasons, which last year was his first in Toronto, but literally same exact year that he had in 2021, he did in 2022 in his first year in Toronto. But now he's sort of parlaying the impressive StatCast metrics into a really good year. This is a guy that's been consistently like 13% and above in the barrel rate department, which is really good. And right now, holy moly, he's got 12 barrels already, which is good for a 32% barrel rate, which obviously is not going to last. Would be the best of all time. But 12 barrels this early in the season is crazy because he had 48 last year, and we are halfway through the first month. So he's already a quarter of the way to his total last year. I could see a breakout incoming. I mean, this could be the year that he is the MVP. It would be difficult to overcome Ohtani, right? I mean, even last year with Judge's insane year, everybody still thought, or a lot of people still thought Ohtani was deserving. And the fact that Chapman's got some pretty good teammates, but this could be the year that Chapman finally really has that 1 year that we've all been waiting for.
Yeah, of course, a lot of his numbers are boosted by an insanely high BABIP, but he's hitting the ball hard, so it's still sort of deserved. Obviously, the barrel rate's really high. He's also posting an average exit velocity, I think, is like his career high by a good distance.
Mm-hmm.
So like as long as he keeps hitting the ball hard, good things will come. Rogers Center is a huge hitter's park. Like it's a really nice hitter's park. And it's honestly kind of outside of like Baltimore now, it's a relatively hitter friendly division. So yeah, I would love to see him win MVP. It would suck for you personally, for him to do it in Toronto and not Oakland. But yeah, Chapman's a great player. Obviously platinum glove fielder. And then now he's kind of getting to more of his power again. I think he's kind of been like a mid-20s home run guy, other than the one outlier year, which is 2019. So does that really count? But yeah, Chapman really deserved. And then Brian Reynolds, obviously, he was the home run leader for like a couple of days, I think. And he was on like a really torrid stretch. And the Pirates were like very firmly in the bad, but very, very fun tier. Obviously O'Neal Cruz went down too. So that kind of puts a hamper on that. But Brian Reynolds, I mean, he's going to play his way out of there is what it feels like.
For sure.
And that's going to do it for our players of the week. And then we'll talk about extensions. And this is it's like they made this for us. They did this for our podcast.
That's what I was thinking. We each get one. It's like Christmas. We each get a present.
I know. I'm so thrilled. The Cubs extended Ian Happ, obviously a Cubs fan. Said that a million times wearing Cubs hat. They extended Ian Happ. It's not a major extension, but it's 3 years, $61 million. He was set to be a free agent in the next offseason. And with the free agent crop kind of being obviously not as good as the previous seasons, he was probably going to be one of the premier hitters in free agency. And the Cubs tie him down for 3 more years, which is really, really exciting. Obviously, he had a great season last year, was an all-star, won a Gold Glove, and they get him for 3 more years. He was super thrilled. He said he's never really wanted to play anywhere else. He was like a dream. I think he said it was a dream come true to get the extension and play for the Cubs. So awesome. Ian Happ gets to stay a Chicago Cub for 3 more seasons.
Yeah, good to see him stay around because they really just let everybody from that 2016 core walk or get traded away. So
he's the second longest tenured Cub currently.
Dang. And he's only in his age 28 season.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty surprised that he only got 3 years. I know that it's like that's probably what the Cubs wanted, and it is a pretty solid AAV for a guy that's peaked at 3.6 F4 last year. So he's not like I wouldn't say like, was he an all-star last year?
He was an all-star last year.
All right. He is technically an all-star player, but I wouldn't consider him an all-star level player. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's a very good player,
mm-hmm.
but he's typically like, that's where he kind of caps. He's a very good player. He was an all-star last year because every team got one.
Exactly. Because the Cubs have to have one. But yeah, I think it's like.
But I love Happ. I mean,
it's cool to see him get $20 million a year, but it does seem weird that he wouldn't go for like more security in a longer deal. Like this will buy his age 29, 30, and 31 seasons out. And then he's going to be a free agent heading into his age 32 season, which is not too appealing, especially for a guy, like I said, that is slightly below that all-star level. So it should be interesting to see how that plays out. I think the biggest thing, we can come back to talking about Happ specifically, but I think the biggest thing is with all the extensions we've seen so far this offseason, there are going to be no free agents next year.
Oh, no.
It's like Shohei Ohtani, and everyone's going to be focused on that, and that's it. And I don't think anybody's going to sign until Ohtani signs, and then after that, we're going to be like, well, now there's nothing else to think about.
Okay, now what do we do?
Yeah, exactly.
You should like Hap, Jake. He's currently walked 10 times already this year.
Yeah, still not more than he struck out though.
Yeah. Oh wow. 20% walk rate, not good enough for you.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I think the top free agents next year, Ohtani, are like what? I think. Oh God, it's like guys that are
Kershaw.
never gonna leave. Yeah, Kershaw. Yeah, he's not gonna leave. Kershaw. There's a bunch of dudes that have options or opt outs. Like Scherzer, Stroman have an opt out, or excuse me, they have an option. Javier Baez has an opt out, which he is never going to take at this point. Jock Peterson's an unrestricted free agent. He currently figures to be the best hitter on the.
Oh my
on the
God,
market.
that's terrible.
Jock Peterson, Cody Bellinger, Charlie Blackmon, Michael Conforto has an option.
Wow. Yeah. Not great.
Julio Urias is a free agent. There's guys. There's no.
There's
hitters.
a couple pitchers. But
There's
yeah,
no
the
hitters,
the hitter class is just bereft of talent. Yeah.
Bereft is a good word. Completely bereft of talent. And then we'll talk about this next extension, which just got announced. I think it was this morning. And the Giants extended Logan Webb 5 years, $90 million dues. And that's going to buy out 3 years of his free agency. He's not due to be a free agent, I don't believe, but it's going to buy out 3 years of his free agency. And Jake gets his guy to be around for 5 more years.
Yeah, this is great. I think if I were to choose one guy on the team to be extended, it would be him. It's No, I don't think so. I mean, it's like when you have a guy coming up through your minors, right? You get him as a prospect and you get to see him as a rookie and all that kind of stuff. It hits different than, extending just some random dude that's been on your team for a year or whatever. And Logan Webb's also like a hometown guy. He's from Sacramento, which is probably like an hour or two from San Francisco. So he's from around here. I watched him play high school football, unbeknownst to me, knowing that he was going to be a major league pitcher. So yeah, I'm pumped to see him around. I like his personality as well. I think he's sort of like quietly like I wouldn't call him like a Twitter troll, but he's on Twitter, and I don't think people are just like, oh, like Logan Webb, great follow on Twitter. But then you'll always get like notifications as like, oh yeah, like Logan Webb commented on this guy's post, and you're just like, oh damn, Logan Webb dropping haymakers. He commented on that like Tim Anderson getting thrown out for arguing about the pitch clock, and he just said lol. and then Tim Anderson clapped back, but it was still pretty funny that he's like active. Also, his dad follows me on Twitter, so I'm like
that's lit.
Big Logan Webb fan. Yeah, so that's sick to have him around for a long time. He's the ace of the team. I think he's probably the face of the franchise right now. I don't think he's ever going to be like a Cy Young type guy, but he is a very, very solid pitcher. He gets the job done. And yeah, he's been great across the past few seasons. Last year, sub 3 ERA. The year before, 3.03. He's an innings eater. Not a lot of strikeouts, but he's just like a great pitcher. And I think he's going to be like a good leader on the team too. I think he's a guy that's going to have lots of stability throughout his career too. So yeah, just an extra 3 years of Logan Webb is about all I could ask for.
Local guy being cool too. You said Sacramento. Isn't Sacramento's AAA team the Giants' AAA team?
Mm-hmm. The River
That's
Cats.
Cool. The River Cats. I knew it was something Cats. I literally tried to search it. It was like Sacramento Cats, and that's what came up. Whatever. But yeah, Logan Webb and Ian Happ both extended by our teams. Thanks baseball for doing that for us.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it. Gave us stuff to talk about. And then we'll go on to some storylines. Talk about the best team in baseball, really, which right now is obviously the Tampa Bay Rays because they haven't lost as of right now. I think they're currently still losing to the Blue Jays, but they're started out 13-0, which is the best start like in modern baseball history, or tied for the best start in modern baseball history. Did you expect this from the Rays?
No. Did you?
No. If you go back, we'll keep talking about our way too early predictions article. If you go back to our way too early predictions article, myself and a couple of my colleagues were both like, "Oh yeah, the Rays will probably be the one team that'll miss the playoffs that made it last year," because we had to pick one. I picked them because I had to pick one, and they seemed like the easiest choice. And they're like, "Yeah, stupid." watch this. And then they've just been laying waste to everybody. They scored the most runs in baseball. They've given up the fewest runs in all of baseball by quite some margin. Run differential is completely off the charts. They've chugged on through injuries. Jeffrey Springs went down. I think it was last night. Jeffrey Springs went down, but they've just had next man up come in and just completely shut up shop. Taj Bradley had a really good start. You could actually go read and watch, or read/watch Jake's gift breakdown of Taj Bradley's debut, which was really cool on Pitcher List. Little plug there. You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
But yeah, I mean, the Rays are just, they're literally like, I love the term buzzsaw. They are buzzsaw. They're wild, man. And I think it'll obviously die down a little bit, but I think there's a good chance they just kind of steamroll this division if this is the way they're going to play all year.
Yeah, it's sort of the thing with them. Every offseason, everybody starts to doubt them because you look at the roster and it's underwhelming. You're not like, oh my gosh, that lineup's crazy, that rotation's crazy. And then they start the year and they just do Rays kind of stuff where they just hit all of the spots that they need because they get the most out of their players and they have such good strategy. And I think their manager is really good and all of their players, I think, mesh well together. They platoon and all that sort of stuff. So they sort of play above their talent level and they can surprise you. And this is more surprising than I think anybody would have thought. The rotation was looking really good until it's been hit with injuries to Eflin and Springs, who's out for a couple months at least. And they were already they lost Glasnow before the season started. So the rotation would have been the best in baseball and they lost like half of it and they're still fine. They are the first team to go 13-0 to start a season since the 1987 Milwaukee Brewers. The only other team to start 13-0 to begin the season are the 1982 Atlanta Braves and a team that wasn't playing real baseball, the St. Louis Maroons in 1884 won their first 20 games. So that's not even real baseball, man. But that's the only team better than the Rays.
In 1884, that was the first year they could actually throw overhand.
Was it?
Yes, it was. That was the first year pitchers were allowed to throw overhand. I don't know if that was still when it was when the batters were allowed to call for what ball they wanted. That doesn't count. The 19 whatever, or excuse me, the 18 whatever Akron Groomsmen or whatever they're called. That doesn't count. But the Rays are insanely good. Their winning streak is unfortunately going to come to an end because they lost the Blue Jays.
No.
But, yeah, they lost 6-3 to the Blue Jays.
Frick. Yeah, it was a fun
13-1.
Pretty good. There were just so many tweets going out about like what kind of crazy stuff they were doing. I wish I had saved more of them to be able to give out some more stats, but there was a point in, I think that was like 6 days ago when they were 8-0. They had scored the most runs in baseball with 62, and they had allowed the fewest runs in baseball in the American League, with 18. So their run differential was absolutely wild. They're the first team since 1884 with a run differential of more than 50 over their first 9 games of the season. You're right. 1884, the mound was 50 feet from home, and it was the first year pitchers were allowed to throw the ball overhand.
I need to look it up, but I honestly don't know if they were still allowed to call for what kind of ball they wanted because it was like high ball or low ball, whatever.
50 feet. That's crazy. Yeah. So there was just a lot of stuff like that. I mean, the 50 something run differential. That's crazy. That's like, I mean, most teams don't get to that at any point throughout the whole season. To do that to begin the year is pretty crazy. I think there was another stat that I saw where they had like more home runs than like 5 different teams combined. Where is it? Let's see. The Rays had 29 home runs. That was 3 days ago. That's more than the Nationals, Guardians, Tigers, and Cubs combined. They scored 83 runs, and only one other team was above 60. So they were just dominating on the offensive end, which is not something that you really think of when you think of the Rays. But you look at their lineup, and then you can sort of start to see how that happens. Like I said, the platooning and everything definitely makes a big difference because you take a guy like Luke Raley, who's just nobody, and then he just crushes righties and doesn't have to worry about lefties, and it's just really good, and you just platoon basically as much as you can. But, Yandy Diaz is super underrated. We talked about Brandon Lau already, Randy Arozarena, the playoff and WBC GOAT, and then Wander Franco, I still think is like one of the quiet upcoming superstars in baseball. The guy's still only 22 years old, and I feel like he's still in that same tier of like Vladdy, Ronald, Tatis, Soto, Julio, where it's like that he's in that same tier of like super young superstar guy. He just hasn't reached it yet because of health. And I mean, this might be the year. So yeah, I feel pretty good that the Rays are going to perform well the rest of the season. I mean, there's no reason not to, right?
Right. And they're doing a lot of this still with guys missing from that piece of the puzzle. Like I've talked about it before, and I think one of the big things that was going to be huge for the Rays this year was how they cope without Tyler Glasnow. It's like he's never even existed. I mean, they plugged holes in their rotation. Like I said with Jake's article, I mean, their top prospect, Taj Bradley, they called him up and he just kind of went off and completely locked it up. And now he'll probably take Jeffrey Spring's spot in the rotation. I don't know if they've already called him up again, but like they just they'll fill a hole and keep going. It's like nothing ever changed. They still have guys in their farm system too that can come up and add to this. They could potentially the Rays aren't a team that would make a big splash at the trade deadline, but they have the pieces that they could if they really wanted to be a contender. And they're just a great baseball team. And it's good to see a team like the Rays that's not like they're always good. Let's be honest. They're always a good team, but they're never like one of the teams that outspins everybody. So I kind of still really love them for that. So it's always really cool to see a team that's not a juggernaut being propelled by three superstars that cost over like $300 million. No offense, Padres, but like teams like this being really good are always really cool because it's just, it's clear they're a great baseball team.
Imagine what they could do if they had the resources that the Padres or the Yankees or the Dodgers have.
They'd be a Death Star.
The Mets. Really. Steve Cohen should buy the Rays.
He should. That'd be cool. Rays Mets World Series every year would be lit.
Yeah. So do you think you can anoint them the division winner already, or do you think like the Blue Jays and the Yankees are going to give them a run for their money?
I think the Jays will give them a run for their money. I think the Yankees will kind of be there-ish, but I don't think they'll quite be close. Like they're not going to be within touching distance of the Rays if they keep up their pace. And it's obviously still very early. It's been 14 games, so it's like there's a lot of baseball left to play. But right now, if this is a sneak peek at the rest of the season, I mean, they're going to run away with the AL is kind of what it looks like, not just the AL East. They look really, really good. What are you feeling? Do you think they'll be caught, or do you think it's kind of, head and hands over with for the rest of the division?
I think it's going to be closer than we expect, especially at this point. It just looks like they're so unstoppable, but you never know. Like, I don't know, a little 4-game losing streak at this point makes them look mortal again. And with the injuries that they're dealing with, I mean, they're not going to be perfect at replacing those throughout the year. And like you said, they don't really have they're not the type of team that goes out and makes a blockbuster trade to fill holes. So they'll definitely come back to earth a little bit, though I would love to see them just dominate throughout the whole year and just, I don't know, be that team that everybody continues to underrate every season and then just come out and show everybody who's boss all the time.
Oh yeah. Kind of feels like the vibes you sort of get is like the first year was like 2015 with the Astros. For me, like right at the start. And obviously you talked about like Wander Franco, and Franco, honestly, he feels like for me, if he plays, he is a superstar. He just kind of doesn't get the recognition for that because it feels like he's not like a huge power hitter. He's more like a double hitter. He's a really good fielder, hits for like a high average. But he's not going to get plaudits because he's not hitting, tape measure home runs. But the Rays in general are hitting 1 million home runs. They're just thrashing most teams they played. And even the game that they just lost, it's not like they lost. They lost to a great team, which is the Blue Jays, and they only lost by 3 runs. So, I mean, I think that's sort of an outlier, and they'll probably end up winning the vast majority of the games that they play this year.
Mm-hmm.
But a couple more things to talk about from the previous week. Talk about some cool little records and some cool performances. And this first one is about Jordan Walker. His 12-game hit streak to start his career is pretty wild. It's tied for the longest for a player 20 or younger since Eddie Murphy in 1912. Jake loves Jordan Walker. He's been raving about him. He's on his fantasy team. He is very, very good. Talked about Xavier Scruggs earlier too, with the Brandon Lau video. He has a really cool little video too, talking about Jordan Walker. He's a good follow on Twitter if you wanted to go check him out. But yeah, Jordan Walker is really good, much to my dismay.
Yeah, for real. I called him as the National League Rookie of the Year before the season, so it's already starting to look pretty good. He's going to have some stiff competition from like Kodai Senga and probably a couple other guys, but is about as well as you can start your career for a hitter. I sort of consider him to have the record now for that hit streak. It's sort of like the same for the Rays, where it's like, oh yeah, the Maroons, that's not a real team. They were playing in 1884. Eddie Murphy, that's an actor. There's no baseball player in 1912 that's playing
I didn't know
real
he's been
baseball.
around for that long.
Right? I didn't know they had black people playing in baseball then.
It's Jackie Robinson Day, Jake.
Not yet. Hey, exactly. Yeah.
Obtuse.
No. Yeah. So I'm saying I'm trying to show that how far we've come, that somebody like Eddie Murphy would be able to play nowadays, but in 1912, no way. Nonetheless, he tied the record. I wish he would have said it, but anyway, to be doing this at the age of 20 is impressive by itself. To do this at any point in the season at age 20 is pretty impressive, but to do it to start your career is awesome. Not a lot of home runs. I think he's just had 2 thus far, but that's fine. He's going to be great all year, and I'm glad that the Cardinals took the chance and that he's sort of solidified himself on the roster by doing this. Now that he has ended the streak, it's probably adjustment time. It doesn't take long for teams and pitchers to adjust to rookie hitters, and I think this is going to be something where Walker's going to have to adjust to how pitchers are adjusting to him. So I hope that he can continue to do well all season, but it'll be interesting to see what he looks like over the next couple of weeks now that he's off that hot streak, to see if he can get back on a roll. But yeah, I've been loving how he's been looking so far. Taking a look at some underlying metrics. I know he hits the ball pretty hard. So far, he was batting like really well during that streak, but he wasn't walking at all. So that's like my biggest concern. He's got 1 walk to 13 strikeouts. That doesn't bode well, but he was a guy that walked 11% last year at AA. So was probably just being a little bit aggressive with the hitting streak active. He's only got 2 barrels, but he does have a pretty solid hard hit rate and a 114 max EV, which is very, very good. So I do feel pretty confident that, you know, if he starts being a little more patient and taking what the pitches are given, he could have a really great rookie year.
Yeah, the big thing about Jordan Walker so far, I mean, he's being aggressive, especially with balls in the zone. Swing strike rate pretty decent, but he's a guy that has a lot of power and can tap into that power. And so far, he hasn't, and he's been really good. I talked about the Xavier Scruggs video, but he really kind of hammers home in that video that Walker is showing just how good of a hitter he is, and not just that, like, he's not falling into the trap of a lot of rookie hitters of like just trying to pull the ball and feasting on like what they're good at. He's just hitting to all fields. He's not hitting for a lot of power, but that will come just because he has the talent level, and eventually like pitchers will make the adjustment to him, but he's still got that in the bag. Like he's got that power stroke in the bag where he's going to be able to, I'm not saying he'll be a 30 home run guy, but he'll probably hit 20-ish. And he'll be a very good hitter and looks like a pretty good candidate for NL Rookie of the Year so far. He's just really good. Eat your heart out, Eddie Murphy from 1912 or whatever. But Jordan Walker, we're probably going to say that he's got the hit streak now because you played when, you know, the game was weird.
Yeah, I mean, the big guy he passed with that streak was Ted Williams, was the second place guy before him. So, I mean, that's a pretty big name to pass.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of, we talked about one end of the spectrum, youngest player or young player hit streaks. What about a big game for Nelson Cruz? He had 6 RBIs, 3+ hits. I do not know off the top of my head who he did this against. Who did he do this against, Jake?
No idea.
Somebody. But the oldest players with 6+ RBIs and 3+ hits in a game are Carlton Fisk in 1991. He did it at the age of 43, 281 days. Barry Bonds in 2007 did it when he was 42, almost 43, 42 years, 360 days. And then Nelson Cruz joins that illustrious list 42 years old and 282 days, 6 RBIs, 3+ hits for old man Nelson. He's still kicking around, and he's still really doing it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool to be in the same sort of vicinity as Barry Bonds, is being super good when you're really old. And I think everybody thought he might be done last year as he posted his first WRC plus under 100. It was 85 last year. That's the first time he's done that since 2007. That was the year that Barry Bonds did the 6+ RBI and 3+ hits. So there we go, full circle. But yeah, it looks like he's back to normal. I mean, he's sort of platooning there in San Diego, so he definitely gets a boost. But yeah, I don't think he's quite done, and I think he'll play as long as he gets contracts. He seems like one of those guys that just loves playing baseball, you know. So even at the age of 42, I think he's still gonna push as much as he can. He's 39 home runs away from 500, so I could definitely see him just continuing to sign 1-year deals until he reaches that. Even still, I don't think he'll make the Hall of Fame because he did steroids, but nonetheless, this is awesome for him. And I love to see that he can still have those bouts of dominance where he's just impossible to stop at the plate. And to be next to, is Fisk a Hall of Famer? To be next to a couple Hall of Famers, asterisk. I don't know if Fisk is a Hall of Famer, but yeah, that's super sick. Love to see him still being great.
I take here, everybody, from Jake. Carlton Fisk, not a Hall of Famer.
He is. I said he was. I said
you said I don't. You said asterisk. I don't know.
And then I looked it up, and now he is. So yeah, strike that off the record.
I'm keeping it on the record specifically, just to spite Jake. But yeah, Nelson Cruz, obviously, old man doing old man stuff, but he's got the dad strength in San Diego for a team. That stupid platoon with him and Carpenter is wild. It's not. It's really not. And it's so aggravating. It's like literally a rich get richer kind of situation where they have Nelson Cruz and Matt Carpenter.
Just two old men.
Two old men that both
playing softball.
Pretty much. There's two old men terrorizing a slow pitch softball league right now.
Yeah.
Another one that's been pretty interesting, and this guy's had a really decent start to the season, is Andrew Heaney. He had 9 consecutive strikeouts to tie the AL record. Yeah, he did it to start the game too, didn't he? Struck out the first 9.
I think so. I wasn't 100% sure about that.
Strider did that last year in the NL, but that's the first time that's happened in the AL in a reasonable amount of time, I think.
Yeah, pretty crazy, especially after how bad his first start was.
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking it up to see if he did it to start the game. Let's see. 9 consecutive batters. I don't know if it was to start the game. He matched Tyler Alexander's record, a reliever for the Detroit Tigers, who did that in 2020. I remember that. That was a crazy day. He did that out of the bullpen. But yeah, Andrew Heaney, definitely a big strikeout guy. He had the big breakout last year with the Dodgers, and we're sort of unsure if he'd be able to carry that over, because we know that the Dodgers have some special powers that they use to get the most out of their players. And leaving that, you're always concerned whether or not these players are able to carry over what they learned outside of the organization, or if it's like being around those coaches and that situation that helps them reach that potential. But yeah, this is definitely a guy that's showed potential in the past, really struggled with home runs with the Angels. And at least for one start now, he's shown to be really good with the Rangers. His first start was really bad, but he bounced back in this one. So would be pretty cool to see him continue to be good, because that rotation is, boom or bust. We talked about it constantly in the offseason about like him and DeGrom and Eovaldi, like and John Gray and Martin Perez. It's like either they're going to be really good or they're going to be really bad. So cool to see Heaney epitomize that across his first 2 starts already.
Oh yeah, you want to hear a cool fact about Andrew Heaney's 9
strikeouts? Cool fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His 9 straight strikeouts broke Nolan Ryan's franchise record for the Texas Rangers.
Now that's saying something.
And he's the first pitcher with 9 strikeouts through 3 innings of work since Spencer Strider last year in July. So there you go. Andrew Heaney, magnificent strikeout artist. Andrew Heaney breaking Nolan Ryan's franchise consecutive strikeout record, which is wild. Just because most of his records seem so completely unbreakable. And then Andrew Heaney did it. But yeah. And then let's talk about another guy that I know Jake loves, and it's Luis Arias. He hits for the cycle, which is a first in Marlins history. Twins lost the trade. It's already over. It's over. Luis Arias hit for the cycle. Twins completely blew it. Yeah, congratulations to Mr. Arias on franchise first.
The thing is, you can't say that they won that trade because Pablo Lopez has been incredible.
Yeah, he's
with
really
the Twins. He added a new pitch and he added some velocity, and he seems like a brand new pitcher. And I think he's gonna have a crazy year this year as long as he can stay healthy. So yeah, that's looking like a great trade on both sides. Big day for Arias, though. Cool to see the Marlins finally cross that off the board. It's a weird. I don't know. The cycle is weird. It's so arbitrary, but I think it's a fun feat to accomplish. So it's awesome to see when players do that, especially because it always seems like they're aiming for it. But he got the three hardest ones out of the way early, and then just needed the single to get there. So awesome to see him do that. First home run of the year, only home run of the year. After that game, he was batting .537. That was on Tuesday. It's now Friday, and he is still batting .500. 13 games into the season. So he just won the batting title last year in the American League, batting .316. So I think we could see another thing of that sort. It'd be awesome if he just goes the first half batting .400. But yeah, he's nearly worth one WAR already. And I don't know, he's just a fun player to watch. He's unlike many players in baseball where he doesn't have a lot of power or speed, and he just does everything by walking a solid amount and never striking out and just being the best contact hitter in baseball. And it's cool to see that on the Marlins. The Marlins are a fun team. It's just disappointing that they suck.
Yeah, they're very fun but bad, or they're very, very bad but fun team. Who was the last player that really legitimately flirted with hitting 400? Wasn't it Blackman 4 seasons ago, where he was hitting he was hitting he was hitting 380 at one point. Luis Arias feels like he's the best chance at actually getting to that number. Obviously hitting 500 so far. It's still super early and it'll probably go away, but it's still really cool just because, like Jake said, there's not a lot of hitters like Arias anymore that just are super, super elite contact guys. And watching Arias is just super sick because, I just really wish the Marlins didn't suck. They need something. And I don't know what it is, but they need help with everything.
Yeah, I think the last guys to flirt with it were Tony Gwynn and Todd Helton. Todd Helton was really taking advantage of pre-Humidor Coors Field. He batted .372 in 2000, so that's pretty close. And Tony Gwynn sort of got screwed in the strike shortened campaign, 1994, I think it was. That year he was batting .394 through 110 games. So yeah, I mean, if Tony Gwynn's not going to do it, I don't know who's going to do it, because that guy was incredible.
Yeah, no clue. Arias obviously no Tony Gwynn, but it would be cool to see someone flirt with it again. I love those kind of chase, the history chasing kind of moments, watching and seeing oh, can they do it? Can they keep it up? Those are always super interesting to be. Last year with Judge's, I don't really care. I don't hate the Yankees, but I don't really care enough about the Yankees to have a super strong opinion either way. But watching Judge trying to chase the AL record, that's sick. So trying to see if players can actually accomplish those feats like that, maybe it'd be really cool if we got Chase at 400 this year, and Arias would probably be the most likely to do it. We talked about Jordan Walker earlier, but there's some important MLB debuts that were made last week that are pretty interesting. We already talked about the last one, which is Taj Bradley, made his debut for the Rays. And since Jake wrote that really slick little article, I'll let him start with Taj Bradley and we'll go backwards.
Thanks. Yeah, he was pretty impressive. He's the Rays' number 1 prospect, number 5 prospect among right-handed pitchers, and number 18 prospect overall. This is all according to MLB Pipeline. So he definitely had a lot of hype surrounding him. And yeah, I watched every single pitch from his debut, and it was pretty impressive. He's got a fastball cutter curveball mix. I know he has some other pitches that are hinted at. I think a sweeper is one of them, and a changeup, which he did not show. It's hard to tell if the cutter is the cutter or the sweeper. I think that's going to take further analysis than I am able to do. But from his start, he was able to see that, the fastball was sort of his bread and butter pitch, and the curveball is sort of really underrated. He didn't really use it enough, but it got a lot of whiffs. It got a lot of strikeouts. So did the fastball, and the cutter is sort of like a called strike, weak contact pitch, which was cool. So I think the Rays will continue to get the most out of him. He's only 22, which is pretty impressive. You rarely see pitchers come up that early. So that's pretty awesome. So I think he's got a pretty bright future ahead of him. I would love to see him get a more whiffable pitch, and maybe that sweeper that was somewhat hinted at by some guys on Twitter, that could be the whiff pitch for him. But yeah, at this point, he seems like he's going to be pretty solid. And I think, further into his career, he could be a guy that eats a lot of innings. His windup was like really smooth and easy and repeatable and athletic. So I think it's, I hate to do these type of comparisons. I hate when people they're just like, oh yeah, this guy's like that guy because they're the same race, but I do get like Marcus Stroman vibes.
I kind of got it too, because it honestly, I don't know if it was the angle too at Tropicana, but it also makes him look really small. Mm-hmm. I know he's not. He's like 6'2" or like 6'3" or something like that. And Stroman's they list him at like 5'9", and I feel like that's generous. But yeah, I do kind of get the vibes, like the swag, the long sleeves.
Well, just like the smooth, easy delivery, and just like
delivery.
So that speaks to like future stamina.
Oh yeah, I love the. If you watch the gift breakdown, you can actually see it. You can watch that. You can go check that out at pitcherlist.com. But I really like, he has like this kind of like long follow through in his pitches too, and it looks very identical to Stroman's, where it's just loose and easy, like you said, super smooth, repeatable. I definitely get those same kind of vibes. And it's also really cool to point out that this is the Rays calling up their top prospect literally within the first 2 weeks of the year. And now with Jeffrey Springs being injured for a potentially undisclosed amount of time, I think he had like left ulnar neuritis or something weird. It was like a bunch of words that I don't understand. But I think he'll probably lose, not lose the rotation spot, but he'll probably be filled in by Taj Bradley, which will have their top prospect called up, which is always really fun. And speaking of top prospects, let's go all the way back around to the first part of this list. And Grayson Rodriguez was called up to make his debut for the Baltimore Orioles. Gray Rod, was he a top 10 prospect? I think he was.
Oh yeah, he was definitely. He was the number 2 pitching prospect in all of baseball, behind only Andrew Painter, and he was the number 1 prospect before Painter's breakout last year.
Oh yeah, well, Grayson Rodriguez made his debut. He started 2 games, and the results have been sort of varied, but still, I mean, he'll figure it out. And the Orioles are a frustrating team, and I've made this talk to. The Orioles would be a legitimate playoff contender team if they genuinely just invested anything into the rotation, not being complete garbage. And they just didn't. And they did nothing. I got Kyle Gibson, and he's Kyle Gibson. So, I mean, you get what you get with Kyle Gibson. And now Gray Rod's coming in to try to fill a hole. And I don't get it with the Orioles. Gray Rod, he'll figure it out. He's a stud. He's just really, really good. He's had that proven track record in the minors, and he'll figure it out in the majors. But starting out a little bit rocky.
Yeah, it's completely beside the point, sort of. But you saw that Cole Irvin got demoted, or
I saw that, option. and I made I said inappropriate words in our group chat about that. But it genuinely feels like the Orioles just have no clue, because they traded for Cole Irvin, and then he made like 2-3 starts, and they sent him down, and he hasn't been that bad. He has not been that bad. They just sent him down for seemingly no reason. No clue. I have no clue what the Orioles' plan is or what they want to accomplish with their baseball team.
Yeah, that's really weird to trade for a guy like that who was like really solid last year and to demote him after like 2 starts. So weird. Anyway, as long as it makes room for Grayson Rodriguez, I think that's a positive move. But yeah, you're right about how it's sort of mixed results as far to struggle in your first inning and then turn it around and have a very solid major league debut, displaying pretty impressive stuff. His fastball sits in the like upper 90s, 96.5 at average, and it had a 39% CSW in that opening start, and he's got some great secondary pitches as well. The slider looks really impressive, and I think the changeup and curveball can probably do a little better, but they seem like ancillary pitches. And then to do that, to be like recover from a rough first inning, which obviously jitters contribute to that, and look like the ace that you were promised to be, to go in and facing the worst team in baseball, the Oakland A's. Actually, the Tigers might be worse. They've won like 3 games really bad. They're both terrible. Either way, to go and then face the A's and really struggle, I think that was like a big command thing for him. Was not throwing a lot of strikes, had 4 walks. I don't know. You sort of just got to attack the A's, I think. But definitely a guy has a lot of potential in his stuff. I know there was people like Eno Sarris saying on Twitter during spring training that he had like the same stuff plus as Sandy Alcantara, which is like a measure of how good your pitches are in terms of like shape and velocity and all that kind of stuff. So he's definitely got a lot of potential. I think he's got like that mental thing where he's still only 23. He's got a long way to go to be like a legitimate major league ace, but he's got the stuff to be like a future big league star for sure.
Oh yeah. Gray Rod, he's going to be good. It's just, I really hope the Orioles are able to put together like a team around him, Adley and Gunnar Henderson, instead of just kind of beating around the bush and flirting with being mid. They're literally like mid to ass is probably how I describe them. But the last one that I want to talk about is the only hitter in this list, and it's Edouard Julien. I think he was the number 4 prospect. He was top 5. I think he's either 4 or 5 for the Twins. He's like a second baseman / left fielder. He's not a good fielder, but that boy can hit. If you can look at if you ever seen the memes where it's like the advanced stats nerds, and it's like the guys on the bus, like one's like staring at the rocks and one looking out the canyon, advanced stat nerd, and then that boy nice watcher, that boy nice, and the advanced stat nerds will love him too.
They're both looking out the same side of the bus.
Oh yeah, his on base percentage in the minors was like 450, and that's for all of the minors. I know Correa, they caught like a little clip of him in like the I don't remember what it was. What he had done in a game, but they literally had a clip of Correa like mouthing, "My God, that boy can hit," which made me think of that.
My God, that boy nice.
Yeah, that boy nice. Yeah, he actually had a fun little first for him. It's not a first, but he's one of a very select list. He actually got his first 2 career hits came in the same inning. The Twins were in the middle of a blowout. So yeah, he's really good. He's probably going to stick in left, or hopefully stick with the big league roster in any way that he possibly can. He came up for Gallo because Gallo was hurt, but Polanco is working back. So I don't know if he's going to fit at second or if they're going to try to cram him somewhere in the outfield, but he is really, really good.
Yeah, and the Twins have been good thus far, so they have no reason not to keep him up there right now if you're trying to field the best team possible. But yeah, you were right about him being the team's number 4 prospect according to MLB Pipeline. He's also the number 4 second base prospect in all of baseball, and he's the number 95 prospect overall. I think he sort of came onto the national stage a little bit by playing super well in the WBC. What team was it?
Canada.
There it is.
He's Canadian.
Yeah. I see that. He's got that French Canadian.
He's French Canadian, and then his more on the first inning thing. He had his first career hit, which is a leadoff single that hit the wall. In Yankee Stadium, and then the same inning when they were blowing up Johnny Brita. Was it Johnny Brita? No, it wasn't. It was Colton Brewer. But off Colton Brewer, he also hit a home run. So he had his first career hit and then his first career home run in the same inning.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you sort of hit all the points. He's a guy that walks a ton. Last year, 2022, at AA at the age of 23, batted 300, but also had a 441 OBP because he walked 19.3% of the time, which that's like Juan Soto level walk rate. He struck out maybe a bit too much, 25%. So sort of Brandon Lau-esque in that he could probably be a little bit more aggressive, and that'll allow him to be an even better hitter, I think. But last year, 113 games, 17 home runs, 19 steals. So he does have some speed, power speed guy with really great plate discipline. That'll play anywhere. It's just exactly what the sort of modern strategy of finding good baseball players nowadays. That's like what every team wants, a guy that's athletic, which I mean, you can sort of just look at speed and say, that guy's fast. He's probably athletic. somebody that can hit for power and somebody that walks a lot, has a good eye at the plate. That's exactly what you want. The three things that you want out of a young player. So yeah, I think Edouard's got a pretty bright future ahead of him. Is he, a future MVP? I don't think so. Is he a guy that's probably going to have an all-star appearance or two throughout his career? I think so. He's only 24 right now, but with those kind of minor league numbers and with him looking already pretty confident out of the gates on a team that I think does have pretty good player development and a good surrounding team around him, he's already batting leadoff too. I think he's got a pretty bright season ahead of him, and I think he could be a guy that becomes more of a household name in future seasons.
Oh yeah, he's also gotten a little unlucky too. His BABIP is really, really low. I think it's like 167 or something like that. His BABIP's really low. He's obviously only played 2 games, but he had a really, really good first game. Struggled second game. Hasn't struck out yet. I'm sure he obviously will at some point, but he hasn't struck out yet. I mean, he's really good. He's got an insane play discipline. You can go back if you actually want to watch clips of him in the WBC. He rakes. He's just really good. The big thing with him is actually getting him to stick somewhere in the field because he's kind of a weird tweener. Polanco, he's probably not going to beat out Polanco for second. And then he's not a good fielder in general. He's just not.
Well, who's their DH?
Is there? No, it's not. It wasn't Gallo.
No, Gallo was playing first.
No, yeah, I would say it wasn't Gallo.
They've been playing Buxton at DH, right?
That's right. Yeah, Buxton's been at DH because they don't want to kill him. But yeah, I mean, they could potentially throw him in there. He actually led the entire WBC in OPS. So if you're interested in those traditional stats, he did lead the entire WBC in OPS, which he also only played, like 4 games. He only played like 4 games because Canada got eliminated. But yeah, I mean, he's an interesting hitting prospect, especially if you play fantasy baseball like Jake does a lot. He doesn't strike out, which guys.
Well, he strikes out. He walks a lot.
He hasn't yet, Jake.
That is true, but it
hasn't yet.
Okay. I will.
He's never going to strike out. Never going to strike out again. Yeah, he's sick. He's also got a weird number. I like guys that have weird jersey numbers. So yeah, that's a weird.
What is he? What's his number?
47.
47.
Nice. I like hitters that are weird numbers.
I don't know. What's Shohei's number?
Is he 16 or 17?
Yeah, right.
16.
17. You're good with the numbers. That is like the one thing that I'm like, people are just like, oh, this guy's jersey number. I'm like, no, that has nothing to do with anything. I know the like big ones. I know the easy ones, but I just think that's like the goofiest thing for like people that are just like, oh yeah, I know all the jersey numbers. I'm like, that means nothing.
I especially remember the ones that are like really weird, like the ones that are really strange jersey numbers, like, or ones that like are related to something else. Like Jock Peterson wears 23, like
because
he wore 24 with the Cubs because of Kobe, but they wouldn't let him. Or I'm assuming the Giants don't. They shouldn't have 24 because that's Willie Mays. So like close enough.
I'm not good at numbers. I know Aaron Judge is 99. I know Adam Ottavino was like zero with the Yankees. I don't know why I only know Yankees. Maybe because that's like a big deal for them. I know like Babe Ruth.
They have no names on their home jerseys, so it's like only the number.
I know Barry Bonds was 25. Lincecum was like 55. But yeah, I mean, there are very few that I know, and it's always like the easy ones.
Yeah, like I literally just been watching
69. That's what I want to know.
I don't think there is one.
Yeah, that sucks.
The Cubs have a bunch of players that are in the 70s, and I think those are cool because they're very aesthetically pleasing numbers to look at. But yeah, that's enough on this weird little number tangent. Let's bring it to our little segment we started on the last pod. Jake can take over from here. This is Jake. This is Jake's new segment. I don't know what you want to do with it.
You got tongue tied, and you were just like, never mind.
Yeah. I lost it. You got it.
All right. Yeah, we're bringing it back. I think this is going to be a usual segment. I don't think it's that exciting, but I think it's fun. I think it gives us a chance to laugh about baseball, which I think that's one of the best things about sports is that not only do you get like the heartwarming stuff or like the exciting things or the interesting things and I don't know, the historical, there's so many like feelings it can give, but one of them is also laughter, funny, humor. I think there's lots of things that are funny about sports, and especially when you're really tuned into them and you're also like in social media, you get the combination of like, I don't know, understanding the whole context of everything, but then also, yeah, like if you're tuned into, if you're terminally online, you also understand memes and stuff. So I think you can hit all of those, and it really makes for great content, not just for us, but just in general. So we're back with LMAO B, laugh my ass off baseball. Let's meme about baseball. We got a new one. Last week we had I'll just refresh everyone's memory if they missed it. Might as well. Last week we had the a peek in the Red Sox clubhouse, and it's just red. And then we got the Kramer, what's going on in there? The new Red Sox clubhouse. Oop, let me hide that. So that one was pretty good. So we'll see if we can top it this year or this week. Davis sent me a couple memes. They are themed, definitely in line with Davis's views about teams of baseball. So we'll start off with this one that I thought was really funny. We got the Trojan horse, which is Wilson Contreras, being gifted to the Cardinals and by Jed Hoyer, the GM, and inside the Trojan horse, Wilson Contreras handling the pitching staff. Yeah, he's a great hitter as a catcher, but I would not consider him to be a great handler of pitching staffs, right? He started to do that like thing where you kneel, right? And I think that's helped him frame some pitches. But as a person outside of the Cardinals fan base and maybe inside the Cardinals fan base as well, I think you get that idea like, oh my God, wow, we're going from Yachty to Wilson Contreras. Like our team is going to be crazy because you're going from, a terrible hitter in Yachty to just like an objectively good hitter outside of being a catcher in Wilson Contreras. And then you sort of forget how good Yachty was as a defender, which is sort of the big argument about why he should be a Hall of Famer is majority in his defensive value. So yeah, we're starting to see the impact of losing him. And before I let you comment, I'll just go to the next one. This one took me a while to figure out. I was just like a place, and then I started realizing that if you add up all the letters on the left, you get an idea of where the Cardinals are sitting in the division right now.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love it for him.
You could do the same with the Dodgers if they were in last place because they got the LA.
Oh yeah,
I would love that.
But this fits because yeah, that's true. You could. I like the ST. They blew it. I'm a big fan of them blowing it. The Cardinals' rotation has been so absolutely miserable outside of like Jack Flaherty and Jordan Montgomery. Like,
you think Flaherty's been good?
Well,
the guy's walked like 100 people.
He hasn't been punished for it though. His ERA is good.
He will be.
His ERA is good.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like sub 2. Jordan Montgomery is currently the ace of that staff.
Pretty crazy.
Not ideal.
Yeah. So if anybody's watching, I see we have one viewer. Not sure who it is. Either way, if people watch this and they have meme suggestions that they'd like to see us review or put out into the world in future episodes, don't hesitate to DM us on Twitter or I don't know, find our number online and call us. And
don't do that.
Hello, who is this? It's like, hi, I have a meme for you guys.
Don't listen to him. Don't do that. Miles Michaelis is really good, Jake. He's really good.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who would have thought that this rotation made up of guys that are bad would be bad?
Not the Cardinals.
No.
Never would have guessed that Miles Michaelis extending.
No, it's because they don't have Adam Wainwright, bro.
Yeah, Adam Wainwright.
They're missing Adam Wainwright. They're just not the team that they used to be.
Adam Wainwright
I don't know.
Sucks too.
I did see another meme that was like that. That was just like it was just like Mike Schilt and Waino and Yadier Molina and Mike Maddox, and they were just like, this team wouldn't or these guys wouldn't stand for like a 4-7 start or whatever. And I was just like, yeah. The Cardinals are just like secretly one of those just like toxic organizations like the Braves and the Yankees, where it's like they have like, I don't know, just the Cardinal way, the way about the team that it's just like if we learn more about it, we'd be like, that's annoying. I'd rather have our teams be fun,
Yeah. I hate the Cardinals a lot, actually. So I really hate that for them. They are currently last in the NL Central. That is really lit. I love that. Their rotation and their bullpen is I'm not gonna say what I wanted to say, but they're garbage.
There's a lady at my work. I mean, everybody knows I'm like the baseball guy, so it's like people are just like talking baseball and they're, oh, Jake, baseball. But she literally just wore a Dodgers shirt today and was just like, go Dodgers every single time she walked by me. So
well,
yeah,
go get in a fist fight with her and get fired, Jake.
don't tell your students that you hate the Cardinals, or they'll just all start buying Cardinals gear.
A lot of them would ask me. One of them specifically asked me, and he was like, I'm getting into baseball. And he was like, I don't know what team I should like. And then he showed me one, and he's like, I like this one. What team do you think it was, Jake? It wasn't the Cardinals.
Yankees. The bad team, the Tigers.
The Rockies. And I was like,
no, that is the one. That's the one.
I was like, look.
Yes, good job. Good choice.
I was like, look. If you want to actually enjoy being a baseball fan, probably not. Probably not.
Yeah,
this one.
That's so funny.
Oh man, yeah, that one got me pretty good. I was like, oh no, please, man, don't do this.
I was looking at this hilarious franchise. What do you think? It's like, yeah, if you like memes, and yeah, that's the one.
Like, yeah, I mean they can hit when they're
that
home.
Is one of the baseball teams.
Yeah, talking about the Rockies, Jake, this is a weird tangent before we get to the closer part. I talked about this whole part earlier about Nick Lodolo having 15 strikes in a start, or 15 swinging strikes in a start for whiffs. What starter do you think has only generated 8 whiffs all season, Jake?
Is this a guy on the Rockies? You said
yes,
speaking of the Rockies.
Yes,
all right, can I pull up their pitching staff?
Yes.
All right. Oh, I know who it is.
You already know.
Kyle Freeland.
Yeah, it's Kyle Freeland.
And he's been going off.
Kyle Freeland's been insanely successful, and I think he's generated his primary pitch he throws is a sinker. He has yet to generate a whiff on it.
That's crazy. Yeah.
I think on his slider or changeup, he's got like 9, and that's it.
Looks like across his 3 starts right now, the first one he had 2 whiffs, the second one he had 4 whiffs, his last one he had 11, so he is over 15 now.
Wow. His last one. I was looking for 2 days ago.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere. First 2 starts though, he had 6 whiffs.
That's terrible.
All 4 of them came on the curveball in the second start. But yeah, he's got a
Marco Gonzalez level man.
0.96 ERA right now for a guy with a 22% CSW and a 15% strikeout rate. It's, I don't know. I remember when he was good that one year. Just I don't know. It's just
Jake Clowney for picking up Kyle Freeland, and then
it's not even like a Rockies thing. I feel like it's just a Kyle Freeland thing where he'll just like randomly have these stretches where it's like, no, like it's pretty clear that guy's bad, but like, why is he doing so well? It's like, it's not like his stuff is crazy. He's throwing sub 90 miles per hour with his fastball. His sinker averages 88.
Hey Jake, you know what's even funnier about his last start getting 11 whiffs? Who do you think that was against?
I just looked.
The Cardinals.
Yeah,
he laid waste to the terrible Cardinals.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, I don't understand how he's doing it. His fastball is sub 89 miles per hour, and then his slider and curveball are nothing special at all, and that's about all he's got. And I don't know how he's doing it.
He is one of the pitchers in the National.
He certainly is.
League.
Yeah, he certainly is.
He's one of the pitchers in the National League, that's for sure. But on that note, I think it's time we bring in the closer.
Yes.
No fanfare. No fanfare this time. Just bring in the closer.
All right. I'm just looking at Nick's SP roundup on Pitcher List, and for his last start, it was no, please don't do this. He's chucking 88 to 89. He's in Coors. This can't keep working. The slider was 42% CSW. Make it stop.
I saw one. It was also on Pitcher List, and it was like like a buy or sell or something like that, and it was Kyle Freeland, and he's like, "There's no way Kyle Freeland keeps doing this," and because he said that, Kyle Freeland's going to keep doing it.
That's going to be the Rockies all-star this year. He's going to go off for the first half, and then everybody's going to be like, well, I guess this is for real. And then second half, he's going to be a 6 ERA pitcher.
Probably.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, you brought it up already. So let's bring in the closer. Today, we've got Stu Miller, who had a 16-year career from 1952 to 1968, during which he pitched for the Cardinals, the Phillies, the New York and San Francisco Giants, the Orioles, and the Braves. He was nicknamed Little Stu and also the Butterfly Man, and that was because he had a very slow, fluttering curveball that he fooled hitters with, but his fastball sort of was Kyle Freeland-esque in that it topped out in the mid-80s. So he was basically doing stuff by dotting that fastball and floating curveballs in there. So that was his main course of action, and it worked super well in his debut in August of 1952 versus the Cubs, during which he pitched a complete game shutout in his major league debut, 9 innings, 6 hits allowed, no earned runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts to earn the win. Great way to start your career. And he finished his rookie season strong, pitching to a 2.05 ERA across 12 games, starting 11 of them. In his second year, he was more of a swing man, starting only 18 of the 40 games he appeared in. And he really struggled, 5.56 ERA, but he did lock down his first 4 saves of his career. The following season, 1954, he struggled again in that same swingman role before he missed the entirety of the 1955 season. This is a case of somebody pitching in the 50s. So not only is his Wikipedia page bereft, I'll use that again, of information, but also it's impossible to find anything about him on any other website. So I don't know if he missed the season because of an injury or if, his poor performance moved him to the minors. But anyway, he returned to the majors in 1956, only to be traded to the Phillies shortly after the beginning of the season. He didn't have success in Philadelphia in 1956, and that ended up landing him in New York with the Giants in 1957, where he started to find himself as a pitcher, pitching to a 3.63 ERA across 124 innings pitched. And then the following year, in 1958, he became a star as soon as the Giants moved to San Francisco. He tossed a career-high 182 innings in 1958 with 119 strikeouts, which was also career-high, and he led the National League with a 2.47 ERA. He carried that success over to 1959 as he started to transition into the bullpen full-time. He had a 2.84 ERA and 8 saves in 1959. And then 1960 would be the last year that he'd ever start a game. And the following year, 1961, he started to gain national recognition. That year, he pitched 122 innings with a 2.66 ERA, leading the National League with 17 saves and earning 2 All-Star appearances, because this was that 4-year range where they were doing 2 All-Star games a season. I don't know who came up with that idea. Super weird. Anyway, he's a 2-time All-Star, and he did it in 1 year. He also finished 12th in National League MVP award voting that year as well. The following year, he set a new career high with 19 saves in 1962, and he broke that career high again in 1963 after landing with the Orioles. The Giants sort of traded him because they thought he was washed in 1962. He had a 4-something ERA for the first time in a while, and they were just like, well, I guess he's done. But he landed in Baltimore, and he was crazy. He had 112 and a third innings pitched with a 2.24 ERA, leading the major leagues with 27 saves and 71 appearances and 59 games finished. So he was clearly the best closer in all of baseball in 1962. He finished 19th in American League MVP award voting that year as well. 1964, he locked down 22 more saves before what might be the best season of his career in 1965. At the age of 37, this guy tossed 119 and a third innings with a career best 1.89 ERA and 24 saves, finishing 7th in AL MVP award voting. And to wrap up his career, he had 2 more great seasons. 1966, he had a 2.25 ERA with 18 saves, finishing 11th in American League MVP award voting. And then 1967, he had a 2.55 ERA with 8 more saves. The final season of his career, he wrapped it up at the age of 40 with recording just 2 outs in Atlanta. I don't know why they didn't let him pitch more than that, but I guess they were like, you're 40, man, your career's over. But that would wrap up his career in which he racked up 27 Baseball Reference WAR across 1,693 and a third innings pitched, with 1,164 strikeouts, posting a 3.24 ERA, a 1.25 WHIP, and 153 saves, which is tied for 87th all-time on the all-time saves leaderboard with Cody Allen.
That's cool. Stu Miller, when he retired with his 143 saves, was actually tied, or was not tied. He was third all time in saves at the time of his retirement.
Now he's 87th.
I know. It's cool that you talked about it too. He was one of the first actual real closers, and he only ended up getting saves because he'd get long saves. He'd come in like the 7th with like runners on and then pitch through the end of the game. Have you actually looked at like his physical attributes? They said they listed him at like 5'11" and 180, and they said all the first-hand accounts said he was more like 5'7" and like 150, and he just threw a bunch of junk.
Makes sense that he was called Little Stu.
We always talk about the Raleigh's Relief Man Awards for guys from like the 90s and thousands. Way back in the day, for relief pitchers, they used to have this award from the Sporting News newspaper, and it was called Fireman Award. He was the first one to win that one twice.
Nice.
And a cool little fun fact too, Jake. After he retired, he worked and sold insurance in San Francisco.
The boy, he pitched for the Giants. So
Stu Miller.
It's where he came to be the man that he ended up being throughout his career. But yeah, this is a guy that I've never heard of before. So even we are learning stuff with these bringing the closers. I think we're nearing 50 bringing the closers. So and to think that there's still so many that we've yet to cover, even some of the big names.
Oh yeah, we're saving those for later, so we don't just run through all of them and then have to do the weird ones all the time. Stu Miller, this one was cool. I actually really like reading about these because then I'll go read either like their baseball almanac page or their page on like Saber, and it's just really cool. So you get to read about lots of real cool players. That's all we have for this week's installment of the Free Baseball Podcast, episode number 56. As always, I am Davis Bird, and you can follow me on Twitter at DBSBird, where I talk about baseball and retweet stuff and talk about other sports and shitpost, which is real fun. You can read all my stuff or just check out all the podcasts because I don't write all that much stuff. Don't fire me, Devin. I know I say that like every podcast. Please don't. But you can read all the stuff that I post at athletesub.org. And then this guy over here, you can follow him on Twitter at Jake Crumpler because that is his name. And you can check him out on the bevy of websites that he writes for. That is not bereft of content from him.
Athletes Hub. Obviously, when I do write, I'm pretty busy with my other obligations. But yeah, I try to post stuff there, and we do have a lot of stuff that we posted in the past on there, including during the off season. But I also write for PitcherList.com. I do a weekly reliever ranks article. I do gift breakdowns. I do one-off articles, diving deep into pitchers or hitters. I think I'm going to do a Graham Ashcraft article in a couple of weeks. So keep an eye out for that. But I also do a couple other podcasts. I do the weekend editions of the First Pitch podcast, which is like a daily podcast. It's a short one, like 15 to 20 minutes, catching up on everything from the day before and what to expect for the day after that. So that one's a good listen. And I also do a reliever focused podcast called In the Pen. Both of those are for Pitcher List, so give those a listen. They're free on all podcast platforms. And I also write for Baseball HQ. Jared Kelenic just hit another home run. That's 4 straight games.
6.5 seconds of hang time on it too, as a bomb.
He's crazy.
Yeah. Ian Happ also has a double, a single, and a walk.
Fire.
Something like that. He's going off.
Well, it's what you like to see from your face of the franchise, huh?
Yeah. Seiya Suzuki also came back. He just missed a home run.
He's back?
Mm-hmm. He's back in the starting line.
Let's go. That was quick.
I don't know who I need to actually check the roster moves that they made to move him up.
I got you. I got you.
They optioned Miles
Mastrobuoni
to AAA.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, how do you pronounce that?
Mastrobuoni.
There you go.
They optioned him to AAA. I thought they were actually going to. Cody Bellinger is supposed to be on paternity leave soon.
That guy's allowed to be a dad?
That guy is allowed to be a dad.
He's high all the time.
Yeah. It's legal now, Jake. Don't be a hater.
True, yeah, but also if somebody was drunk all the time, I wouldn't be like, well, it's legal. You should don't leave him alone.
Yeah, but he's got money, so everyone doesn't care anymore.
Yeah.
That's all we have.
I wonder what he would look like if he was actually high.
That's all we have for this episode of Free Baseball. Check back with us next week, next Wednesday or so. But you got to follow the Athletes Hub on Twitter at Athletes Hub to be able to tell when we're going live. So please go do that. And then like the rest of our social medias, follow Athletes Hub everywhere. Read all the stuff there. After we've gone on our weird little tangent. Again, this has been a tangent-filled podcast.
That's good. That's what you want from podcasts.
Yeah, this has been a tangent-filled podcast, but that's cool. Just check all our social medias. Check the Athletes Hub. We write a bunch of stuff for all sports, not just baseball. So if you like baseball or if you like other sports, it's pretty lit because you can go check out all sorts of stuff from everyone else. And it's more from the fan side of things. I know, like, we try to be as non-biased as we possibly can most of the time. On the podcast, that's kind of out of the window. Me and Jake don't care about that.
Did you see Foolish Bailey's tweet today?
No, what was it?
It's related to what you just said. I'm pulling it up so I can quote it.
What's he do on his podcast?
Oh, he doesn't have a podcast.
That's been the joke for like.
Okay. Okay, yeah. He said, where is it?
Chris Taylor hit a home run. I'm going to cry. Off Justin Steele too. This is the worst day of my entire life.
Shoot, I really want to find it. Well, I'm gonna give it one more second, and if I don't find it, then here it is. One thing plaguing the baseball industry is that there aren't enough podcasts about the Yankees that are not only by the fans, but also for the fans.
Yeah, our podcast is by the fans, for the fans. It's not about the Yankees because me and Jake are haters, and our entire podcast is about us being stupid stats nerds that are also haters.
And memers.
So if you want to watch our silly little podcast where we hate on everybody, except the teams that we like and the Rockies.
We're a Rockies podcast by the fans for the fans.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We're a Colorado Rockies podcast. We even have the purple and black background. We love the Rockies. We're a Rockies podcast. So if you want to check out our Rockies podcast next week, you can come back here and join us for Free Baseball episode number 57. And that's all we have for this evening on this wonderful Friday evening. Go watch baseball. Just go watch the baseball.